We are live. Welcome to the Dentist Show. It is Thursday evening, and it's that time where we discuss topics that matter to our community. And so we are going to be going live. Well, we are live, really. But I'm just going to get my people ready backstage and come to you in 1 second, and actually 30 seconds time. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Dentist Show. We are live. It's Thursday evening, and we are discussing topics that matter to us in our community. How are you all doing? We are still in COVID-19 times, and so I hope that you are keeping safe. I hope that you're doing your social distancing. I hope you're washing your hands, and I hope that you are wearing those masks. I hope that everybody's well. And, you know, before I kick off the show, which is going to be a very interesting topic today, I just want to say a big thank you to WorldRemit. You can join over 5.7 million people worldwide, all over the world, who are sending money back home to Africa. And it's very simple. It's the better way to send money. Absolutely. So make sure that you go on www.worldremit.com and send that money home fast and easy. Again, I want to say a big thank you to Prodigy Foods. It's here. It's available in Ghana. I've been telling you about this amazing shito, guys, and she's finally brought it to Ghana. So all of you, those people that have been messaging me, DM me, Denta, how do I get it in Accra? That is the details. The number is there. Make sure that you go and contact her and buy one. Guys, let's support our own. And if you are watching from the diaspora, you can order online on the website that is shown on the screen. So a big thank you to Prodigy, Kessie's Classics, for an amazing shito. She has jollof seasoning, all of that. Go online and try and purchase one. Again, a big thank you to Vesta London Beauty for the lip glaze that she has. Make sure that you go online and get one as well. So we are talking about flooding, and I have a group of people that I've spoken to before. Actually, I've spoken to Philip before, and I've spoken to Richard before, and I know Daniel very much as well. John is also going to be joining us, and we are discussing the topic about flooding. How do we stop the flooding in Ghana? Is it us, the people? Are we putting a lot of stuff in the gutters? Are the gutters not done right? Are we blocking the gutters? What are we doing that every single year when it rains in Ghana, it affects so many people? So guys, if you are watching me on Facebook, make sure that you do a watch party. Okay, set up a group, do a watch party, and share your pages, guys. Just share your page. You never know who might be interested in watching this topic as well. And if you are watching us on YouTube, make sure again that you subscribe, click that red button, subscribe, and also share it on Twitter, on Facebook, on LinkedIn. So I think I'm going to go to my first guest, Philip. He's based in the UK. You know, we've become such good friends from, LinkedIn. I met him on LinkedIn, read his profile. He sent me some article, and that has been it. So inspirational. He does a lot of work on sanitation, waste management. And so I'm going to get him to introduce himself and the work that he does in the UK and how he thinks that there is a solution to what is going on in terms of our flooding. So Philip, welcome to the Dental Show.
Thank you very much.
How are you?
Not bad at all. You?
I'm good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining me on the second time now on the Dentist Show. I appreciate you so much. But, for the viewers that haven't had the opportunity to hear you speak before, please introduce yourself, tell them the work that you do, and, you know, what you think about this particular topic that we're discussing today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Philip Tremantin, and I'm an environmental scientist by profession. I work for British Waterways as an environmental scientist, and I cover London and Southeast. I also run my own environmental consultancy service, Renderfield Environmental Service, and I also consult for a company in Switzerland called Solar Impulse Foundation, and I'm a senior consultant over there. So regarding the flooding incident that has been going on for some time now in Ghana, I believe there is a solution to it. And the solution involves not only the expertise, involve the public as well, and those who always get impacted, those the flood affects, they are also involved. So we all have to come together and find a common approach that we can work together to solve the problem. So I believe today we are going to share a lot of information and ideas together, and from here, something is going to get done to solve the problem.
Absolutely. What is the real work of an environmental scientist? What does your work involve?
So as an environmental scientist, the environment industry is a very broad area. We have ecologists, we have geo-environmentalists, we have geoengineers, we have hydrologists, and we have waste engineers. And my background is solid waste management, radioactive waste management, water management, pollution, flood risk mitigation, and I also do contaminated land. So basically, as environmental scientists, we manage the environment to make sure people have the right place to live healthily, and also protect the ecosystem and biodiversity so that everything will thrive according to how nature has arranged. So basically, that's the work of environmental scientists.
Okay, fantastic. I think we'll delve into the topic a bit more, but let me introduce everybody. Let me introduce Daniel. Hello, Daniel.
Hello, Denja.
How are you?
I'm okay, and you?
I'm good, thank you. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, nice seeing you too.
Awesome. Daniel, again, introduce yourself, you know, what you do, your role. I know that you work with Boulevard, but, you know, your background when it comes to waste management, sanitation, you know, your expertise. Let's hear a bit about yourself.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, my name is Daniel Kabe. I'm a civil engineer with a specialty in environmental engineering, where we look at water and sanitation situation. Well, I'm based in Accra, and I have done quite a number of work in the area of water and sanitation. Now, let me take them one by one. They are all intertwined. For water, I've done a lot of consulting for Ghana Water, most of the major projects from Koyanku water supply, Kofruda water supply, the Pond water supply, and all that. I was an engineer there. And for the sanitation, I recently worked with a World Bank funded project called GAMA, that is Greater Accra Metropolitan Area project, where I was a water and sanitation specialist. And currently, I am doing some work for two consulting firms in Sierra Leone, where we are looking at the water and sanitation situation. That's free time. We are preparing a master plan. And I am a consultant to Boulevard, a waste management company. And at the same time, I run a consulting firm called Boakye Limited. Now, the issue of flooding in Accra, like my earlier colleague said, needs a holistic approach. I mean, we all have to come together. But then there are quite a number of people who have been tasked to lead the charge. And I think that leadership needs to be shown, and then they can carry the rest along. Thank you.
Awesome. You mentioned about the master plan for Sierra Leone. Does Ghana have a master plan?
Again, your question again?
Does Ghana have a master plan? You know, you said you're doing a master plan for Sierra Leone.
Yes. Ghana has let me just give you a few. There has been some master plans in Ghana. In 1963, we had a drainage master plan. Another drainage master plan in 1991, another one in 1997. There has been quite a number. And then the Gamma project is also preparing a master plan for waste management, that's solid waste management, liquid waste management, and drainage. And that program is still on.
Okay, fantastic. Let me introduce Richard. Hi, Richard.
Hi, Denta. Good evening.
Good
Hello.
evening.
Hello, Phil.
Hello, Richard.
To the view.
So, Richard, again, Bola Bird has been around for a little bit. I want you to tell the audience exactly what you do and how you've worked in the area of sanitation and waste management.
My name is Richard Dabla. I'm the managing partner for Bola Bird. And before Bola Bird, I work in various fields related to waste management, especially resource management, recovery, resources from waste for power generation, recycling, and production of premium compost. I've also led agroecology of Tel Aviv to be able to develop sustainable waste management strategy for the Greater Accra region. The project is still pending. In Bola Bird, what we do is integrate the information technology system into waste management, information technology in a way that we should be able to synchronize and understand the dynamic of waste management, and also be able to be proactive for planning and the rest. Tell, for instance, when a bin is full at a certain angle, more or less using the tool of artificial intelligence to be able to maximize our operation, monitor where waste being carted at channel 2, and also be able to tell our clients their environmental footprint.
Okay, and how have you seen the waste management industry in Ghana?
There have been a lot of development, especially starting from 2010 thereabout, where we've seen production of tricycles to be able to access inaccessible areas within the municipalities. That is improved very much. There's a lot of active players, but the point is waste generation has fast-paced our own planning or setting to be able to adequately handle the waste that is carted currently. And there's also issue of final disposal sites that is kind of challenging for most of the people that are into the business of waste management. Some of them find it quite difficult, for instance, to reach the various final disposal site. There is, in recent time, discussion of a few transfer stations to be able to reduce the burden of traveling far of the city to be able to dispose of the waste. There's been some few improvement, but it's still challenging.
And are you seeing Ghanaians separating their waste? Is this a challenge? I know in the UK we have a green bin, we have a black bin, and we have an orange bin. Is this something that you are actively promoting via Bola Bird, and do you see it happening across Ghana?
In the area we cover, we actually introduce coded bin or coded liners to be able to promote segregation at source. In some few places, they find it a bit challenges because the color code becomes a bit cumbersome. So what we do in those areas are more promoting wet and dry waste, meaning organic and any other recyclables to be, placed in a different compartment. And we move, but it has been a bit challenging because it is not in our habit to segregate the waste, and most of them are of the view that you are collecting it and you can do whatever you want to do with it at your various facility. But it is gaining ground. People are much concerned about where their waste is going, especially after a series of flooding and the rest. And also it's catching up a bit, yeah.
But you don't see a lot of promotion about it. I mean, we don't see adverts on it, or radio adverts or TV adverts trying to promote, the separation of waste, because what is the effect of it when it's all in one bag? Maybe we need to get a better understanding.
Yeah, because there are more or less two approach to waste segregation. There is a school of thought that think that waste needs to be segregated as source to be able to limit contaminant of the recyclables before they get to their treatment site. Others think that they will need to actually send a waste facility where they make do with mechanical or biological treatment to separate the waste in their various stream. And most of the time, the second solution is quite challenging because of the duration the waste are actually the duration of the waste in the storage facility until they are channeled to their various treatment facility. Food waste maybe will decompose quite faster and contaminate, for instance, the plastic and other things you find in the waste bin. So the approach is quite challenging for others, but I think that there's been some ground that have been gained, especially as such water, where various homes make sure that they separate their water because it brings some income. The income generation bit is what actually will help promote or not promote source separation, because some of the waste contractors find it a bit difficult or challenging or impact negatively into their operation, meaning they may have to resort to twice a collecting probably the dry waste at a point in time and come back and collect the wet waste.
Okay, all right. We'll come back to that. I'm going to introduce Mr. John Kessie. Hi, John. Can you hear us?
Hello.
Hi, John. Can you hear us? Okay.
Yeah, it's breaking, but yeah, I can hear some of the words, and I'm trying to figure out what you're saying.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine. So you're a civil engineer and managing director for JMK Consulting. You've had experience project management in the UK. Tell us what you're currently doing when it comes to the flooding situation in Ghana, because I hear that you are in charge of...
Sorry, the line is really bad. I'm very sorry about this. Trying to log in with my phone. So you may wish to move on to the next panel whilst I try to get in with my phone.
Okay, then.
Sorry.
No problem. Okay. All right. We'll come back to John when he gets a better reception. So, Daniel,
yes.
What causes flooding, and has the occurrence of flooding in Accra and Africa increased over the years?
Well, let's agree on one thing. The population, the urbanization is actually the main cause of flooding in Accra and major cities in Africa. Now, a lot of people are moving away from the rural areas, coming down to Accra, and the development. In the past, we had a lot of greening areas where, when it rains, we have water infiltrating into the ground. But today, what do we have? We have concrete all over the place. So when it rains, the water has to find its way. It has nowhere to go to. And so you see it building up, the water building up at levels, and then we see flooding. Now, what is actually happening is the uncontrolled population growth. In Ghana, another thing too is unregulated waste management. I mean, people just dump their waste anywhere. And then thirdly, we also have a problem of a poor land use. Now, if you go to our governance system, the legislation and everything, we have very beautiful laws packed out there as to how our land is used. But then, even the people who are in charge violate this land use laws. In this, people just build anyhow. I mean, let me give you an example. Just a few weeks ago, a whole street in Ajirigano, somebody just cut the street and started building. Warnings were given, and the person didn't mind until I heard the BNI or so went there to demolish the whole structure. And even then, I heard the BNI had a very huge tax, confronting these guys before they were able to demolish the structure. Now, so all these things, bringing all of them together, you realize that we should definitely expect nature to take its course. So that's one of the reasons for the flooding. Now, another reason, it's, if you look at our drains, they are very small. And like we say, we keep saying that because of the concreted nature of our land, the land use, everywhere is concreted, the water easily flows into the nearby drain. And because the drains are small, the pressure becomes so high, and then the water overflows onto especially the down areas. And so, what do you expect? We cannot easily direct the water to any other part apart from, the available areas.
So, but as citizens, who is the kind of blame in a way? Because if you're saying that somebody in Njingono is building, but don't they have permits to build? Like, who's controlling that? How we build and how we're blocking the gutters, and even the roads that are supposed to be roads are becoming houses. How are we supposed to monitor this? Because obviously the population in Accra is about 6 million people?
Yeah.
Accra.
Yeah.
And it's growing every single year. And so how do we control this?
If you look at it, we have district assemblies, metropolitan assemblies, and then cosmopolitan assemblies. Now, Accra has been zoned into about how many assemblies? And we expect that the assemblies, it's not that we expect, it is there. We have units that are in charge of land use, how buildings are put up, the waste, they are there. But the issue is, nobody knows what they are doing. And when you ask them, we don't have resources to go out, we don't do this, we don't do that, we don't do that, they blame virtually everybody, everything except themselves. You see, and so this is what is actually worrying us. Secondly, I'll tell you one thing. Ghanaians found a kind of freedom. At a point, we found a kind of freedom, and we've thrown all our laws away. We are even freer than those guys, those who started this issue of freedom, Americans and so on, where we say, they are free to do whatever they want to do. We tend to overdo it even more than them. So there's no law that is actually working. And one thing, if you do something if you go against a law and you are being persecuted, what do? You start playing victim. Because I belong to this group, because I belong to that, these guys are after me, and so on. So it's a very huge problem. And I think the only way out is actually to strengthen our institutions, to allow them to work. And then we need reorientation. An average Ghanaian needs to be reoriented. And I think that is what our religious institutions should do now, to kind of give us a new set of thinking, so that we'll be able to solve some of our problems. Otherwise, we'll take 2 steps forward and take 4 back.
Wow.
That is I think.
Wow. I'm going to go to Philip, because Philip, you even sent me a video I'm going to see whether I can download it on how a gutter should look like. What are the differences between the Ghana gutter and the UK gutter?
Yes, thank you for the question. Basically, the UK system, we call something sustainable drainage system. Most of the gutters use that system, whereby we make sure the waters are able to infiltrate. And because people don't discard or dispose waste anyhow, you don't get the gutters being choked with unwanted material. So the waters are able to flow. And whenever there is a design of a property or a construction is going on first, it has to go through planning application. The planning application, we will have to assess where the building is going to be erected. We have to look at the topography of the area. We have to look at the geomorphology of the area. That's the quality of the soil, geology of the area, whether it's clay, whether it's gravel, whether it's rocky, whether it's valley area. We have to look at it. And we also have to look at the hydrology. That's the water movement in the area, how water moves in the area. We have to look at all this and assess it. That is the place flood risk free, or the place is full of flood risk that people can live there. When it fails, no matter how important the project is, we are going to fail the project. We won't allow it to happen in the first place. So this is something that is not happening in Ghana, as Mr. Daniel touched on it. And also Richard also talked about the waste management. People dispose waste anyhow. So these undersized evacuation drains are very small in the first place. And people also put waste in them. It gets choked. So water can't flow. So when it rains, what happens is the rate of infiltration is very low than water movement. So all the water move. And if you look at Accra Mountain area, right now there are a lot of construction activities going on, a lot of residential development. In the olden day, there used to be vegetation and trees over there. So when it rains, these trees and vegetation will slow the movement of the surface water and to also absorb some of them. Now, these are not there. During planning application, if you are going to remove a tree, we will ask you, what are you going to put in place? If you fail to answer this question, minus, you are not going to be allowed to develop. So these are some of the things that we have in the UK that is different from what we are having in Ghana.
Wow. And I mean, so it looks like the UK, for you to even build, for you to even start building, there's a process, a checklist that must be applied or must be adhered to before you can even start to put up a property.
Yes, it goes through the local authority, and it will come to all those who are going to be affected, because the company I work for, we have a lot of assets in the UK. So suppose you want to erect a warehouse, say 10 meters away from where our asset is. The planning application will go through the local authority to come to us, and it will come to the environment team. When it comes to me, the first thing I will look at the environmental impact assessment. Have you done environmental impact assessment? How is your building going to affect the environment, the biodiversity, the ecology, the water body in the area, air pollution, noise? We look at all these things. One, have you done flood risk assessment? If you have not done flood risk assessment, no, we ask you to do flood risk assessment. And if the flood risk report comes and we look at it and we realize the area is not suitable for such a building, we will tell you, no, we are not going to allow it. And the building can never continue. You can never build. There is no way you can build until you come back with a solution that all the stakeholders involved will agree that, fine, this one would work. Then we give you the mark that go ahead and build. Wow. And sometimes it can take 3 years. Right now, I'm working on a planning application that the area is very contaminated with a substance called hydrocarbons, which is carcinogenic. And when I say carcinogenic, it causes cancer. So the people who will live there, they will have their gardens, and all this cancer will bioaccumulate. Some of them will be breeding them, and they have different pathway. So we've told the developer to make sure they remediate the land to make it free from all this contaminant before we can give them the permission to build. And they are telling us it's going to cost about £10 million, and they don't have their money. And they want to justify by how their project is going to benefit the society. And we know that it's going to benefit the society, but you have to fulfill this condition. Regardless of what it's going to do to the society, if you don't fulfill this condition, we are not going to allow you to build, period.
That's it. Wow. Daniel, so are you saying that what Philip is saying is we don't have that system in Ghana?
Ideally, that system should be there. Ideally, if you want to build, you need to go to assembly. We have officers who are supposed to look at all this and go through. But sometimes, that's what I'm saying, they don't even go to the site. And sometimes, I mean, the big guys, they just make a call, and these things don't happen. Because if they were to be doing their work, I don't think we would have been having structures put up in waterways. Now, let's look at one thing. From Wager, when you are going towards Kaswa, the Denso River, just besides the Denso River, somebody is filling up that place. I've been wondering what the person is going to do over there. But it looks like the person is there's going to be a development there. You understand? And I mean, nobody's saying anything. They wait until the guy finishes with what he's doing. Then you see them running around. And the person, probably the person is a big boy. He has a lot of connections and nobody can stop him. And when there's a disaster, we start running, calling on government and other institutions to come and help. And so ideally we have the structures in place, but they are not working. That's why we're saying that our institutions are not working. We need to be giving new orientation.
I think I now have back on John Kessie, who's a civil engineer. John, can you hear me now? John, can you hear me? And can you unmute? Hello? Oh, I don't think he can hear me. Okay, I'm not sure. John, can you hear me? Okay, he can't hear me. So I'm going to take Richard's perspective on the flooding. Obviously, there was an article that was out in 1960 about floods in Accra. The headline, I think Philip was the one that posted it, or one of you posted it, when the rains came to Accra. 1960. It was what day? Monday, the 18th of April, 1960, and we were talking about floods. And we're now in 2020, and we are still talking about it. Richard, what's your perspective on that?
Not talking.
Richard?
Yes, I lost you there. Can you repeat the question, please?
Okay, I was saying that, you know, there was an article in 1960 about flooding in Accra. And in 2020, we are still discussing this. What do you think are the fundamental issues?
I think the parameters are not the same. In 1916, I doubt it was so up, and we removed most of the topsoil, and so we haven't done that. Flooding in 2020 is actually man-made. Flooding, per my understanding, is a natural occurrence where, for instance, the water trying to find its way through the low-lying area and trying to cover, dry land. That happen in different manners. For instance, when depending on the type of flooding we're talking about. But in our current situation now, especially because of fast development and having people blocking our various channel drain, and so with solid waste, and in various parts of Accra recently, you may see that people are connecting most of their wastewater, regardless of the contamination level of the water, into the channel that have been created for storm drain. And in most of our highways, most of the catch nip or the traps that were actually constructed to protect solid waste to enter those channels are virtually non-functional because of poor maintenance and the rest. Those could have been the cause of the flooding. And besides to when we take into consideration that Accra, in the various cities of Accra, have certain dynamic. I think when Phyllis posted the picture, we did discuss a bit, and I emphasized that there are key areas in Accra that have different example of Jolu, which you can understand means a valley. At least it give an indication that those are low-lying area, and those are areas that you should not. So I get for quite smart to do their own environmental impact assessment in various locations and keeping up certain reserve that we may call, for lack of better words, evil forest or the forest and so on. That becomes more or less like the heart of the city that actually regulates raining and all the rest. But currently, those are non-existent. We are actually building, cutting up trees, not even giving a green space in our various homes. I believe we build our various homes like Daniel indicated, like more like a swimming pool, where everything is built on concrete. The only chance we have is probably an inlet where the water, when the place is flat, water to actually move through various streets and various drain if it happens to have a drain there. So 1960 flood, yes, it flooded in 1960, but I doubt the dynamic of 1960 are still the dynamic of 2020. In 2020, flooding is more or less man-made. There's no percolation into the ground to actually refill our water table. And there's a lot of things that are virtually not happening. The topsoil are virtually removed. No green places available currently, and coupled added to that are also engineering defect, like the way we contract our drainage in the various vantage points and the rest.
Okay, thank you, Richard. John, can you hear us now?
Hello.
John, can you hear us? Hi, John.
Hi, Dita. Yes.
Oh, I think this
I'm
is
really
better.
sorry for disrupting your program today. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you perfectly now.
Good.
Perfect.
Good.
You know, John, as a civil engineer, I think you've been tasked to try and combat this flooding that's happening in Accra. What are some of your thoughts on how we are managing our waste management and sanitation, and how are we going to be able to stop flooding in Accra?
Right. Yeah. Thank you very much. And once again, let me apologize to your viewers for the disruption. That's the beauty of technology. It goes bad when you need it most. So I am sure my colleagues have said a lot and have shared a lot of their thoughts on how we can address these challenges that we have, this perennial flooding that we experienced. The Minister of Works and Housing often says that this is a situation that mocks the country. But let us also put things in context. This is an age-old challenge that we've had. There are records of flooding in pre-independence days, and so we have to put that in context as we look out for solution. The solution to the problem, I'm sure my colleagues on your panel or the panelists have shared some of their thoughts on what we could do. It's a wide range of solutions. It has to be approached holistically. We have to look at land use. We have to look at policies that govern development. We have to look at policies that govern buildings, how people build, and whether they pave all their land or they have to allow some part of the land to allow for infiltration. We have to look at the policies that guide even the development of drains and responsibilities, who has responsibility for what. All of those have to be looked at. And we have to make sure that there is one stop shop. We call it one stop shop. When it comes to drainage, all things drainage must be the responsibility of one body. And that is a direction that the country is going at the moment, looking at an authority that will be responsible for drainage, and that will be responsible for developing standards, because there has to be standards, whether we are talking about an individual's house development, or multiple house development, or looking at even government infrastructure. There has to be some standard. When we talk about flooding, we have different sources of flooding. Now, when development are coming up, do they take into consideration the level of flood risk in the particular area? Is there anything like flood risk assessment? If an assessment is undertaken, what mitigation measures have to be put in place? Now, if you go and if you develop your land, does it make the surrounding areas more prone to flooding? I think one of the panelists mentioned somebody developing in an area.
Please go ahead, John. We're listening.
Yeah. A bit of
Yeah, you were.
intervention. The mentioned that somebody building in an area earmarked for road construction. Other people are filling in river bodies, and building over them. These are policy issues. There are also enforcement issues. Are we actually enforcing the rules that we have, the buffer that we have around river bodies? Within 50-meter radius, nobody should develop. Are we enforcing those? And then what are we doing as individuals? Are we using our drains as rubbish dumps? I mean, recently when it's rained and some areas were flooded, there were videos going around of some people actually dumping rubbish in the drain. I mean, drains are not meant to carry rubbish; they are meant to carry water. So it's a wide range of issues. Looking at education of our populace, looking at the development of the right policies. We have some real good policies that we then have to enforce. And forcing those policies, those rules, those regulations, and then developing flood alleviation schemes, to make sure that we deal with the flooding, and then also we need to look at sustainable drains. We cannot continue to build wider drains. The solution to the challenges we have is not just building wider drains, because if we just build wider drains, we just provide wider avenues for people to then dump more rubbish. We need to encourage the use of sustainable drainage systems, and then also we need to look at natural flood management systems. Where we can look at streams that's usually overflows and flood certain areas, and incorporate measures we call natural flood management, where we have interventions along the length or the stretch of the river body, to make sure that at sections in between those the stretch of the stream, there are interventions that help to reduce flooding downstream. So we look at what we call source control. Where is the water body falling? Where is the river, or where is the body? Where is the body having a source? The river body, where is it having a source? Where is water falling? So we have to manage water where it falls. We call it source control. Where the water falls, we have to manage it there. But if everybody is paving their homes, everybody is paving all their land, then we cannot have that source control. It means that every water body, every water that falls will just go through and end up somewhere we call the receptor. That will then, receptors will receive the water. They don't need the water. That's not where the water is needed to be. Those are receptors, but that's not where we need. So there's a wide range of interventions that we can implement. And again, there are several organizations that have to be involved. For example, we have the planning authority. They have to enforce the planning laws, and then we have to make sure that people respect those rules and regulations that are in place that govern development. So I'll stop here as my initial observation. Unfortunately, I may have repeated some of the things that others have already said because I couldn't hear them previously. Thank you.
That's fine. Thank you so much, John. So, so currently, is there anything that maybe the World Bank is doing? Is there anything that's happening on the ground at the moment? Because just a few weeks ago or last week or so, there were rains in Ghana again, and you can see this on the screen. This is what's happening in people's homes. A lot of them have been, been made homeless. What is currently happening at the moment when it comes to flooding?
Well, first of all, I wouldn't say first of all, I mean, I am privy to some of the things that are happening, but I believe that I'm on this platform in my professional capacity based on my experience in the work that, similar work that I've done in the UK. But I am in a privileged position to know some of the activities that are taking place now, some of the things that the government with the World Bank is doing. So, I have to put it on record that I'm not on the program in my official, official capacity as speaking on behalf of the government. But I know that the government is working with the World Bank on a project that has several components. So within that project, we have what we call the structural interventions. So those are looking at it's actually looking at the Odo River from its source. And remember, I mentioned source control. So one of the key important, key interventions is looking at upstream storage. So building detention ponds. So basically, what the detention pond is basically doing is we're trying to impound the water, because a lot of the water flows from the higher grounds, from the Ibri areas, flowing down. And so if we are not able to control the flow from its source, then it runs down, as it runs down, it gathers momentum, it picks up, other tributaries along the coast. And then as it has to enter the river, it ends up at Kole, which unfortunately is always choked with silt and rubbish. And so it doesn't get the access into the sea as it should. And that is what backs up and causes the flooding around the circle area and the ODANA area and all those sort of areas. So if you can hold large volumes of water, and that is part of what we call natural flood management. And that in some of my projects that I've done in the UK has used a similar approach where we build we call it earth band. So it's just like an embankment. And by just doing that, you hold large volumes of water that would have flown downstream and would have caused flooding downstream. So that is one of the interventions. Then there are other interventions, looking at, again, expanding the capacity to allow for flow. Some of the areas have been silted over many years to the extent that the capacity of the drains have been reduced drastically, if I can use that word. So the one intervention is to dredge and make sure that we are able to secure, or we're able to make use of that capacity by removing what we call the legacy silted material. So we call it legacy dredging. So those ones have been there for several years. So the intervention is to remove all of that, to create a capacity, to also create more capacity in the college itself. Now, other interventions are what we call the flood early warning system. It's a non-structural intervention, flood early warning system, that will make sure that people who live in the flood-prone areas, because the thing with flooding is that you cannot totally eliminate it. That's why we call it flood alleviation or flood mitigation. You can only alleviate it it will not eliminate it. So the residual risk, what are we going to do? Those people who still live in those areas where there's residual risk, we have to be able to warn them in good time so that they can keep safe and that they can keep their property safe as well. So that is a non-structural intervention. Then there is some education component, where we're looking at the Zongo ministry. The Zongo Inner City Development Ministry is looking at several interventions, including waste management. In some of those areas like Anima and the surrounding areas. There again, there's also expansion of capacity, drain capacity, to make sure that whatever runs downstream, there's capacity to hold it. So there's all those components, waste management. So the Ministry of Sanitation and Water Resources is involved. They are looking at the waste management side, because if we can, as I said earlier, if we only provide expanded capacity and we do not manage the waste very well, we're only creating larger capacity for waste, for people to dump their waste in. So again, that is another intervention that the World Bank project is bringing in. Now, there are several phases of that project. This is only the first phase, and then there will be second phase. So currently, the first phase will provide us a certain level of protection. The higher the level of protection, the higher your cost, as you can imagine. So we have a certain level of protection that this current phase will deliver, and then the next phase would increase the protection level. So a lot is happening in this direction, and I'm confident that a year by this time, designs would have been done. The dredging, would have been done extensively a year by this time, and detailed design for the structural interventions would also have been done, and hopefully by this time we should see actual implementation or construction works along the stretch.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Daniel, do we have underground drainage? I know, what's this program called? I've lost it. But, do we have an underground drainage system for Ghana?
I think it's only around Accra. That's the business, the central business district. I think that's the area where we have quite a few. Yes, underground drainage systems. Yeah.
Philip, do you have anything to add to what John stated?
John has touched on it, giving a detailed solution to the problem. So what I will add the public involvement and education parts and waste management. Let me talk about the public involvement and education, because we need to start to let people see the importance of waste management and the awareness of climate change. Because with all this engineering intervention, if the attitude of the people do not change, we are still going to have a problem. We have to educate them from the primary school to the secondary school that you don't dump your waste in a water channel. It's not the right place to dump your waste. They also have to take ownership of their immediate environment, that they live there. So whatever they do, if they act irresponsibly, the impact is going to affect them. So we try to create that awareness in them for them to understand that they have to take ownership of their environment. They shouldn't discard waste anyhow. And I'll come to the waste management aspect, which is very, very important in the context of Accra situation. One, the waste management, the government has to intervene to help with the private waste management so that there will be a robust collection system. They have to install waste bins in the public places, strategic places, that when people are out and about, they can have a place to dispose their waste, and they should have a collection system whereby when the bins are full, the waste management companies will collect and dispose it properly. One thing that we have not also talk about is about the waste management as a whole in Ghana. I don't live in Ghana, but I can see the waste management is monopolized. Most of the government contracts go to one place, but there are a lot of waste management companies in Ghana that needs to be involved, because one person can never do the job. If you come to the UK, there are hundreds of waste management companies, because most of the jobs can be done by one person, because there are areas that the one waste management company cannot operate. So that job should be given to a local waste management company who will be able to do the collection, who will be able to do the disposal. And we should also have a sanitary landfill where we are going to have a proper technician and engineers to manage. Because if you don't have, we can't implement all the 3 R's. That's recycle, reuse, and reduce. If we are not practicing it properly, at least we should have a place to dispose the waste, whereby it's going to have low impact on the environment. So these are some of the things that I think the government has to also focus on, apart from the engineering aspect.
Thank you so much, Philip. That's very, very helpful. Richard, what are some of the areas that are really prone to flooding in Ghana?
I think the dynamic have quite changed lately. Time back, I believe Alajo is some few areas around Circle, Adabraka, and the rest of flood prone. But because there are new settlement, there are new dynamics that are coming into play, it's quite challenging to pinpoint, depending on the volume of rain that is coming from various areas and that are being channeled through our storm drain. It is quite difficult to pinpoint that area A or area B is. But I quite remember Daniel and I, to touch a bit on what Philip said. Daniel and I guess in 2018, worked around the coastal line of Accra. I guess we did 60 kilometers from Bone to Kokrobite, and we investigated virtually almost all the watershed. We make do with the drones, took pictures, took some few water samples, and engaged the that were living around the coastline to understand, because we also noticed that there were few erosion around the coastline and how they were able to manage themselves. We as well conducted the audit of the waste that we found and the debris that we found just around the beaches and so on, just to be able to connect what we recover at the coastline and the economic capability of those people. Not to say that they may not be able to afford certain, but it was quite striking. It rained at that time, and we realized that bags of waste were actually coming through the drain around the Lamines Osu police stations and so on. That was quite heartbreaking. So we thought, what could we do? And then we needed to think of empowering the people within that community, because they are not necessarily the culprits. Some of the waste come all the way from East Legon, Spinters Road, and the rest, and are all channeled down the beach. So we were the view that we needed to provide some few solutions, and I believe John touched on some few things, and we also believe in the aspect of waste management. We should be able to trap those solid materials that are found in the water channel and so on, providing, for instance, a gross pollutant trap or a floating pollutant trap, and also be able to integrate few vegetation around our water bodies. Even, for instance, naturally constructing man-made mangrove, because if you observe, even around the Labadi Hotel, most of the estuary and the mangrove are virtually non-existent lately, because they are dying. If you get to the Malam market, you also observe that because of lack of place to dump the waste, many people have turned the Malam market area into a dump site and have virtually killed the Lafa River. And I noticed there's been some few engineering work done around there, but it compounds the problem. Waste management is actually one of the key elements that are destroying, the aesthetic of our city, and also causing flooding in various parts of Accra, which make it very difficult because now virtually everybody is actually using the channel as a receptacle to convey their waste to the final destination that will be our coastline or beaches.
Thank you, Richard. John, why is it that our gutters are open and not closed? Is there a particular reason for that?
Well, we grew up seeing our gutters open, and we thought, why should we leave them open? Because it provides an invitation for people to dump. So it's not ideal. I mean, we've seen in a few places where they've been covered. Covering them is the best thing to do. You know, I think one of the things that the World Bank project will do is that to be looking at opportunities to cover sections. The challenge with covering sections and not everything is that then when there's waste pushed from the open section into the covered section, it becomes difficult, you know, to manage that degree of waste. But having said that, I think we have to make it as a policy as a country, not to throw an open invitation to people to dump in our drains by covering them. So I will advocate covered drains.
Okay. Richard, how much waste do individuals, one Ghanaian, accumulate in a day?
We take the basis on our economic indicators, but we construct the average and say that we generate about in between 0.46 to 0.58 kilogram per person a day. So if you could make the projection and multiply it by how fast our cities, I mean especially Accra, that grows at 3+%, you'll be amazed how much volume of waste we generate in our various homes. But it's not, some of the waste are not measured because, like we indicated, some find a way of waste in their various homes. Others, for instance, into the drain when it rains and so on. So there's no measure, but we can just use the figure about 4,000 tons of waste that is generated within the catchment of Accra. I mean, talking about the Greater Accra region, for that matter.
Okay. So we are producing a lot of waste.
Yeah, you know, the human mind is way that everything there's waste generation. It is in the abstract, also seen physical. You cannot do with no waste. And the problem is how to use the waste hierarchy to limit when we come to land use, limit the waste to end up at the landfill, meaning recover most of the resources that are there from sources to also permit fast acceleration of the economy. For instance, in advanced countries like Germany and so, where they are talking about the fourth industrial revolution that takes into consideration the circular economic dynamic, where those materials have not to be disposed but to be recycled and recovered by energy generations, and if possible, just landfill materials that are virtually in it, that do not have so much environmental impact on our groundwater. But here we sweep the problem under the carpet. It is more like driving the waste away, out of sight, out of mind. So we keep shifting the goalposts by any time, any day, discovering, for instance, an abandoned quarry that has not been properly in line, and we turn them into landfill. landfilling need to be properly engineered. The waste generation and the planning need to be considered first, which we failed to do. And it comes back to what you initially indicated, that is a bit in conflict with policies, because if, for instance, in the environmental sanitation laws, we're talking about the polluter policy, and in one end we put our bins in front of various homes. What is happening is we don't take the waste from their various homes, then put it in the bins or the receptacles that are placed in front of their building or facility. So in some instances, people vandalize most of the waste bins that are actually placed in various frontage, and so I mean, the whole problem boils down to detailed education. There should be it shouldn't be superficial. It should be integrated. People should be able to connect with what they benefit from it, not necessarily benefiting in terms of money. But when we speak about waste management, is more like we speak in the abstract. And the waste, even the term using the term waste make it look like it's something that I necessarily need to get rid of. So we virtually do not want to connect and try to understand the dynamic and try to understand what resilience or sustainable development demand from us and the future of our unborn generation. So we need to redesign education, the educational approach vis-a-vis waste management. It should not be more of a sloganeerism kind of approach to waste management, because waste management has a capacity of creating a lot of more than factories that we're having, starting from the waste generation, the carting, the storage, the management, and the final disposal.
Thank you so much, Richard. I mean, when we talk about waste management, we have also seen that, Asian countries are rejecting waste from different countries. I know that previously, before, a lot of countries were taking other countries' waste. What is the situation, Phil, on that issue, and how, why do we need to stop other people's waste coming into our country?
The reason why they do that, even in advanced countries, they find it very difficult to manage the waste. One, recycling. When they take our recycling waste, they tell us it's going to the MEF where it will get sorted, and it will go to manufacturers as a secondary raw material. But it doesn't happen, because most of the waste sometimes gets contaminated. People don't understand it. They contaminate, they mix them together and they get contaminated. So when it gets to them, it get rejected. And because in the UK, most of the waste, you can't take it to landfill, because the more you take waste to landfill, the more you pay. So most of the companies in the waste management business, they don't want to do that. And they classify it as a resource where developing country will use. But sometimes it's not true. And it will get to the place and they will open it up, and the waste is so contaminated, full of hazardous waste. Meanwhile, they package it as a resource. One classic example is the electronic waste that goes to Africa, Nigeria, and Ghana. We, the Africans, we are receiving it as a secondary material that we can use, but it's actually a waste, because there are a lot of hazardous components in it that need proper engineering infrastructure to dismantle and dispose them properly. We don't have it. So it shouldn't be that. They ship it as a resource. The reason why they ship it as a resource, so they are posting it to another country where the country will use it as a secondary resource to do whatever they want to do. But it's not true. So African countries have to stand up and stop these things. And it works through legislation, enforcement, having the proper agency in place, whether EPA or the environmental ministry or the sanitation ministry. They have to make sure this is not happening. But it's happening. If it's happening in Asia, now China has put a stop to it. Most of the European countries and America, they can't ship their waste to China as they used to do before, because the Chinese were receiving it as a resource, but actually they realized most of them were contaminated, and it had a lot of health impact on the people who will be dealing with it. So we shouldn't see it as a resource anymore. It's a waste, unless they can prove to us that we can use it as a secondary raw material. Other than that, we have to put a stop to it.
Philip, is it because do countries who receive it get money for it? Is Is that why we receive it, or we get it as a gift?
Sometimes they even sell it. One, they sell a lot of, you call something RDF, and I know Richard will know about refuse derived fuel. And the refuse derived fuel is used to fuel energy from waste plant. So a country like Netherlands, they buy it a lot. So Netherlands will buy this RDF to feed their energy from waste plant. So that's what happened. So when a country is receiving it, it depends. Sometimes they will pay incentive for them to receive it. Sometimes they will even sell it, especially if they are electronic waste that goes to Ghana. I know a lot of people who are in it. They sell it to the people who are receiving it, and they get money from it. So at the end of the day, they are getting money and dumping waste on you.
Wow. So, I mean, we need to kind of put these things into perspective. There's a lot of illnesses in Ghana and Africa as a whole. Could this be some of the reasons why there's so much cancer? There's so much, all of these things that are happening, asthma, and, could some of these things bring out cancerous stuff? Because you mentioned about a property that's trying to go through a procurement, but that area is cancerous. Could this be some of the things that are making our health, are making us sick?
Yes, it's possible. Look at, there is a place in Accra, they call Abubulushi. I don't know if I've mentioned the name right, where they dump a lot of electronic waste. And most of these electronics waste, sometimes they have to dismantle it. Sometimes they have to burn them. And when they burn them, they release a lot of carcinogenic compound. We have something called dioxin or furan, which intoxicate the air. So when people breathe in, they are breathing cancerous substances in their system. So I read an article that they started having health impact in those areas. People have started having issues, cancerous sicknesses. So it can cause cancer. And the example I made, when a development is going on, first we have to look at the historic use of the land. What was happening on the land? This afternoon, I had a long meeting about a place where we want to create artificial river, we call canal. We want to use it for a canal. And we realize there are contaminants on the ground, coal tar, which is made with a substance called bitumen. And the coal tar is hazardous, but the bitumen is not hazardous. I mean, John, as a civil engineer, knows about it. And we realized we can't continue with the project unless we deal with it, because if we continue without dealing with it, one, some of this substance, when it gets in touch with water, it can mix and release this compound. And if people get in touch with this water, what will happen? It's going to affect their health. So we are going to put a project on hold. We did analysis. We consulted specialist contractors to look at it, and it's going to cost about £4 million for them to remediate it before we can continue with the project. And that we have to find money for it, because without it we can't continue. And the government will make sure they provide the money for that. So these are the systems that we need in Ghana. And as my colleague said, they have it on paper through the planning application. They have on paper this and that have to be fulfilled. This condition has to be met before, but they don't implement it. That's the problem. And the sad thing is, the poor and the vulnerable people who are the receiving end of all these things, and they are not aware of it. And as Richard said, it starts with education, that we have to open their mind. Guys, things that you are dealing with is cancerous, it's toxic, it's going to affect your health. If it's not going to affect your health now, it's going to affect your children and the generation to come. And the land, you can't even use it. And some of this, when it doesn't come in contact with human being, it gets in touch in the soil. It can have a pathway, it can go through the soil, it rains, it can get to a farmland, and we grow crops there. It bioaccumulates in the crops. We feed on it. And people are not aware of all these things. But the intellectuals, they know about it. But because the education is not there, people don't know. So it's out ignorance. So when we start with education from the primary school, environmental studies, people should take it very seriously. A lot of campaign workshops should be going on. Then we start to change the mind of the people. And when people realize this, I think they will hold the authorities accountable, and they will start doing the work that they have to do.
Wow. Thank you so much. That's so insightful. John, is there an issue? I don't know. We know that Zoomlion is the company that's doing quite a lot of the waste management. But why is it that we're not seeing a lot of bins scattered around the country?
Well, I think there are quite a number of companies involved in waste management across the country as well. I mean, clearly Zoomland is the biggest, and I think it's because they had a first mover advantage. You know, not many people were interested in collecting waste from people's homes. I don't think anybody saw it as a lucrative business. I don't think, it was a business that seemed exciting for people to get into. I remember I was having a conversation with a friend, and he said he was talking to somebody about potentially starting up a business of this nature. And then the guy said to him, "Oh, do you mean that if my mother-in-law asks me what business I do, I should tell her that I collect waste?" So this was somebody who was looking down on that that's business. But I believe that Zoom Lion saw an opportunity, saw a big gap in the market, because before they came on board, who was doing this kind of business? I don't think it was anything that anybody was interested in. So they have managed to establish themselves. But I think that in some other local, local authorities or some municipalities and some districts, there are other companies that are also set up, to do this same business. And yes, I think the more competition there is, the better value we can all get for our money. But yes, this is an open market, and I think that more and more people should get involved. And to Philip's point earlier on about recycling, I think that as a country we need to, move towards encouraging recycling. If you come to my house here, I've collected, all the water bottles that I don't throw them away, but I'm wondering what I'm going to do with them, because they might just have to end up in the rubbish bin, everything going into that one bin. But I find it so difficult to do it because I'm used to separating, the plastic. I'm used to separating. I've got them piled up in bags in my house. I hope that somebody will knock at my door one day and ask that, do you have any plastics that I can collect? But yeah, I'm still waiting. So we as a country, we need to encourage recycling. I think reuse we do very well. I think in reuse Ghana does much better than Europe and other places, because even when it comes to clothing, this three siblings can wear the same clothing before it's thrown away. And yeah, we like to reuse things. Even our glasses, we reuse them. The Coca-Cola and all these glasses, they are reused. So I think reuse, we are not too bad, but recycling, we need to up our game. Thank you.
Absolutely, we certainly do. Guys, if you have any questions for anyone on the panel, this is the time to ask your question. Again, if you are watching, make sure that you are sharing your pages. If you're on Facebook, if you're on YouTube watching us, it's a very, very insightful conversation. And it's a very needed conversation because I think we're all fed up with floods in Ghana at the moment, and we want to see that change, because like John said, it's not just happening, this year, but it's been happening over a number of years. And so, we're hoping that the work that John's going to be doing, the work that, Richard has been doing, and Daniel will make a change in our system and in Ghana as well. But, Philip, what I want to know from you is that if you had the opportunity to come back home as a diasporan, as a Ghanaian, to work on, you have so much knowledge and skill that you have learned from abroad, will you be willing to openly come back to Ghana and help fix the situation that's on the ground?
Yes, of course, I will, because here in the UK, we have the system and it's working. So the expertise and the skill that I've got, the impact, I'm not feeling the impact that I have to make. Unlike Ghana, that I will have a lot of impact. as I told you that time when we had a conversation, I tried to, through an investment company and other colleagues, we tried to set up energy from waste plant in Ghana, but we had a lot of setbacks. We couldn't do it. So it's part of my plans to do that, to help, to come back.
What are some of the setbacks? I mean, what challenges are you facing when it comes to? I mean, you have passion for this and you want to come and help. What are some of the challenges that you faced when you tried to come back home to Ghana to help out?
One, waste management is heavily regulated. You need the government to help, especially contracts, to get a contract. So, for example, if I want to start a waste management company in Kumasi, I will need a contract from the KMA. Other than that, I have to start as a private company like what John is doing. And a private company, you have to put in a lot of resources, start to procure for contracts from businesses. And this is the situation whereby the people, the business, they don't see the reason why they have to pay for. They have to pay for waste collection. So you end up as a business entity without making profit, without making money, unless the government come in, like the way Zoom Lion is getting a lot of contract from the government. So when we wanted to set up a waste management company, energy from waste in particular, we wanted to get a contract to sell energy to the national grid. And the discussion didn't go well with the investors, and they didn't like it. So they have to back off. That's what happened. And Richard will attest to what I'm saying. It involves a lot of money to set up energy from waste plant, even millions of dollars. And I don't have that money. So you need investors. So, example, if the entire say, oh, Philip, I've got $5 million, let's start waste management business. Tomorrow I'll be in Ghana.
Wow. So I need to look for that money. Yeah,
look for that money and I'll be ready.
Guys, if you are watching and you are interested in partnering with Philip or Richard or Don or Daniel, let's get 5 million. Can 5 million start? Can we start with that though?
Of course we can. Let's just get one contract. Let's get one contract. Say AMA will give us food waste contract, organic waste contract, and we are going to turn it to compost. We are going to derive energy from it. Yes. We will be in Ghana.
Okay. So I've been thrown a challenge. I need to find 1 million. I need to find £1 million or $1 million for you to be able to come down. And one thing we haven't touched on, but Mr. Kessie, there's Barfwa says, Mr. Kessie, have you looked at selling your plastic waste to institutions like Trashy Bags? Yes. Actually, yes, I do know Trashy Bags. They collect plastics and turn it into bags. So just for your information, John.
Well, no, I haven't. I think, yeah, that's useful information to have. But I'm wondering if I'm going to, want to drive all the way to wherever Trashy Bags is. It's easier when you can just do it at your home. If the waste company that's responsible for my estate, does that, maybe we have 2 separate bins, one for plastics and the other, then it's a lot easier for people to do it. That is one thing about recycling and all these things. If it becomes a little bit difficult for people to do it, they naturally won't bother. But yes, it's a very good suggestion. And maybe when I find out where they are, I'll carry them in my car, and then one of these days when I pass by there, by that institution, I'll drop them. Maybe I'll get some 5 cedis to buy more water.
Yes, definitely. They are actually based in near Jolu. So I'll get you their details and send it across to you. But you're right, it's easier if there's a bin, that's a plastic bin, you put it in there, or whether Trashy Bags can actually come to you and collect the plastics. But again, somebody has written what percentage.
If I may, then.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead. Go on, Richard.
Yeah, John, just wanted to know where you located. What we do with Bolabel, for instance, is to provide various waste stream. Per our coded liners and coded bin to various facilities, because we pick up recyclables from very home. All you need to do is just to download our app. You go to Google Store, you download Bolabel app, you pick up, and our team will just move to location and pick up. What we do is just we more like trying to connect between various raw materials that are, for instance, what you have in your home with the facilities that are actually in need of those raw material. So we don't just collect plastic, we also collect, for instance, tin, bottles, and also segregated food waste that we send to our various partners for various recycling programming. So all you need to do is just download the app and actually to be one of those partners. Channel to the plastic bottles, we channel to trashy bag and any of those partners. And what we also do at the same time is also to inform you on the volume of waste you've been able to divert from the landfill, and from your food waste, we're also able to tell you how much carbon dioxide you're able to, off take from various landfill and the rest. So at least you're able to control your waste, understand your waste generation, and we sometimes advise per our auditing on what you should be able to limit in your waste generation, some of the products that are not recyclable that you need to get rid of when you get purchasing in a various supermarket.
Fantastic. And I'm going to put Bolivar's website details on here.
Yeah.
But I also request that all the speakers, if you can, in our private chat, your email address and your website details, because people are requesting it in our private chat, please. That would be great. I'll say hi in a private chat, so you can all type in your website details and your emails for people to be able to get in touch with you. One of the questions that's come up on the screen is, what percentage of plastic is being recycled in Europe and USA, and do you think it's sustainable? I think I'll go to Philip for that one.
Yeah, it's sustainable compared to disposing it in landfill. But now, in the advanced world, we are looking at biodegradable plastics that, at least if it end up in the environment, it will biodegrade. And when I say biodegradation, it will disintegrate. Because at the moment, the plastic that we have, if it end up in the environment, it can stay there for so many years and remain the same. And it have a lot of environmental impact. So now recycling is sustainable in terms of plastic waste management, but we can do better. And we are trying to come out with a system whereby we eliminate plastic from the system, but it's going to take a lot of years because plastic is part of us. We use plastic in our daily lives all the time. So it's going to take a lot of years. For now, recycling is the best way, and reusing plastic. We find ways to reuse it again. There are so many ways you can reuse plastic, especially if you are into gardening. You can use it to grow small flowers. You can use it to grow so many things. You can play with it, as some people are even using it in Ghana. Some people are even using it to create bricks to build houses. Others are also using it to manufacture into clothes, etc. So at the moment, recycling reuse is sustainable for plastic until we find an alternative.
Okay. Thank you so much. Chrissy, any other questions? I think we've got a few here. Second. Fred, I am in agreement. We should create a course curriculum to recreate. Okay, I think this goes more on the education. Hold on 1 second. Okay, so let's move on. I mean, we've spoken about the negative. Let's talk about the solutions. Let's talk about some of the solutions that we can do, or Ghana can do, to help stop the flooding. I'll start with Daniel. If you can give us your suggestions, your views on how Ghana can stop the recurrent flooding each and every year.
Yeah. The issue is, let's take a country like Netherlands, for example. Netherlands, if what I have been reading is true, it's below sea level, not above. And so they are prone to serious flooding. And then the sea sometimes can overrun the whole land. But they have been able to engineer the system such a way that, I mean, we hardly hear of flooding. And in the same way, we have that kind of human resource in Ghana to be able to think. I mean, we all that we need to do is to do proper engineering. We need to sit down and study our system and come up with local solutions, and we'll be able to solve this problem. Now, if you go to Australia, the same way, what they have done is to make this thing. Most of the developed countries, especially, they have covered their drains. Their drains are all covered, so there's no way you can get up and throw your waste dump your waste into the drain. But you see, I think we, like John said, we deliberately have left the system for we have created a system for people to do that. I don't know what our motivation is. And so, for me, the solution that we need to solve our perennial flooding problems is proper engineering. We need to, first of all, study the system very well, understand how the flooding is going, probably the 100-year cycle, and then we will be able to engineer that. And if we talk about this, we can just face this thing. Probably we can face it. Maybe the first 10 years, this is what we intend to do. The next 10 years, this is what we'll do. Next, this thing. And within 15 years, we'll be able to solve the flooding situation in Accra. I know it's not going to be, we cannot solve everything 100%, but to a very large extent, we'll be able to mitigate the situation in which we find ourselves. From 1968 to 1968 to 2011, we've had more than how many this thing between that period, we had at least 3.5 million have been affected by flooding in Accra alone, with over 330 deaths. You see, and we can't continue like this. So I think I want to call on the policymakers, and I want to call on the engineers, because for the engineers, we are ever ready. The only thing is that we just need a policy statement for the politician to say, look, I want you to do this. And we are there. We can solve this problem within a twinkle of an eye. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I think you've made some really good points. If policies and, we definitely need government's involvement to be able to make things happen. Richard, what would be some of your solutions to the current flooding in Ghana?
We need to first understand or identify local champions into various communities where the flooding is happening or does happen, and engage them, make them understand the dynamics to be able to properly improve their own condition by monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring is that they will be able to tell which road actually channel their waste, for instance, into the drain. But that they may adapt, and that will positively impact into their livelihood, because most of those people affected are people that are living in low class areas most of the time, not through fault of theirs. And also revise our waste management approach in various areas, because, for instance, waste contracts are given to various homes, and some of various has been zoned, but unfortunately some of the contractors do not show up, or when they do, the charges are not actually affordable for those those various home, and communicate, develop program to communicate to them in a sustainable way of handling waste in their various dialects that will resonate with them very well, because I believe it impacts better on you when you resonate with the problem and you become you could offer a dynamic solution. One of those solutions, for instance, that we proposed at the time were to be able to recover most of the debris that we find at the beach. Some of them are organic waste that they could actually use to fabricate briquette, and then also recover most of the plastic that they were finding around their drain, dry them properly, and then convert those plastic, for instance, into pavement block, and also construct, for instance, road and so on around their place. And one key area too is to be able to have traps areas, High Street, for instance, on the N1 and the rest, to be able to, sieve most of the solid waste that are coming from various angles when it rains, and have people continuously remove them. And have a contract with waste management companies that day in, day out, move those solid materials from the drains and so on. So we don't wait for when we know we are entering May, June, July, which is a rainy season, before we all run left, right, center, trying to deset the drains and so on. Because the more we drain the drain, we also weaken certain dynamic of the water around there. And just like what Daniel indicated, also integrates vegetations just around various places and so on, to be able to absorb most of those water after the water level is dropping. And if possible, also remove containers before in front of every homes, because those containers, owners of those containers do not, for instance, have the appropriate toilet facility to start with. Some of them, into a sachet and throw them in a drain. So move them, and if possible, make a form of arrangement with landowners and plant trees in those various places, map them properly. Because mind you, trees are able to absorb up to 400 liters of water that they convert into oxygen that we breathe day in, day out. So we should be able to put a symbiosis of approach, and have the people in the community own those projects. When the projects are owned by the community, they understand it and they connect it better than when it is done in a drawing board and we just present it to them. So it means that we have shifted their partnership into a third party who is actually supposed to handle the challenges when the need arise.
Absolutely. Somebody's put here, we need man-made lakes and also use the waste for road building, because that's one thing that Nelson Boateng does. He uses plastic to make pavements. Isn't this something that we should be encouraging, Richard?
Yes, we should, provided that we for instance, understand that the risk of leaching is also possible. That may also contaminate the water body. But it is an approach that is developing. Countries like India and other countries are also embracing the idea. It will reduce the volume of waste that will end up into our drains, and also end up in landfilling. So it is something I would propose as a solution, is one of the key solutions to addressing or connecting the dot between waste management and the reuse of waste.
Okay. Sharon has put here that I agree, countries like Singapore have banned plastics. John, shouldn't we be banning plastics? Is it that easy to ban plastics in Africa?
Well, it won't be easy, but I think it will serve us well. I think We use too much plastic. Last year, yes, I was here with the family and we went to KFC. And when we were served, we had all sorts of wraps. Everything was put in one separate plastic bag. And when you go and buy something, you have so many plastics that you'll be given it's like an item bag. We need to move in that direction. Perhaps we can start by ensuring that we charge, because now it's free. That's what UK is doing now. Sure, as you're aware, when you go to the shop, you pay for the bag that you put your stuff in, and so now you see a lot of people coming with their own bags, and to avoid, you might think that it's a small amount of money, but if every time you go to the shop you have to pay for bags, that will end up being a lot of money by the end of the year. It provides revenue for the government to invest in, waste management. So I think we should, as a country, we should be looking at going in that direction, starting with charging fee. But before you ban, you have to also look at what suitable alternatives are we proposing or putting forward to ensure that people in business or people who use that as the means of also earning money or their livelihoods is not cut off. So I would think that we start by looking at charging for bucks, and then the revenue should go into government effort into dealing with the waste management, and then eventually we should be heading towards banning it completely with making alternative provision for what to use.
Thank you. Richard, what percentage of the waste collected by your company is being recycled, and what happens to the rest?
I won't be able to put the percentage vis-a-vis the national percentage of waste that is being collected, but what I could say is all the waste we collect, at least 70 to 72% of that waste is actually channeled to recycling companies. There are some few instances where, for instance, because somebody drank from a plastic bottles, drank maybe Burkina some juice, and it has not been properly rinsed, we consider those waste, those rejected waste that are actually sent for a second process. So the recycler, if he still wants to the length of machine and sending for shred and recycling. But most of the waste we collect from various homes, because they are source collected, have limited contaminants, and therefore are sent to various recycling partners that we deal with.
Okay. Sue says, why
and
don't...
also also respond to the question of banning of plastic bottles is a bit challenging here, because it's an issue of probably the egg and the chicken, because what is happening in most of the waste recycling plastic producers company put up is there's an ad valorem tax or an environmental tax that is charged at source when they import plastic product and the rest into the country. And so asking them to charge to put up some other percentage will be amount to double taxation. So what probably would be ideal currently in the country while we study and propose an alternative is might be to increase the number of micron of the plastic bags we produce, so it is quite attractive for recycling companies to recycle them, because some of the plastics are so light that it's not even attractive to any recycling company to take them. But shredding them or flaking them becomes a bit challenging. So the production of plastic need to be revised. The volume of micron need to be considered. While we maybe put a much more investment on research and development on how much we could use vegetable plants and the rest to be able to produce a plastic that could easily decompose into the environment. At its time, to be able to compete and a sustainable alternative, for instance, the use of paper, I am of the view that we may need to use the micro or the plastic that is produced. Then it offers an alternative to people to promote paper as an alternative for now.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'll move on to Philip. Phil, I think a few weeks ago we spoke about how about toilet system in Ghana, and you came up with a solution that can actually, the feces that comes out can be turned into what's it called, fertilizers, right? Can you touch on that and how that could also work in Ghana?
Yes, I designed a system for my company. We wanted to reduce our carbon footprint on our, whereby we install it. People who visit the reservoir, we use it, and when it's full, a company will come and take it and dispose it off for us. And it was costing us a lot of money. So I was starting to design a system whereby it will reduce the cost, basically, because most companies are interested in making money rather than using money to do so many things. So I designed the eco toilet, and the eco toilet, it mimics the human nature, whereby the feces is separated from the urine. The system is designed such that as soon as you sit on the toilet, it will separate the urine from the solid part. And we put in something we call cocoa shell, or in Ghana you can use a sawdust. And what the sawdust does, it reduces the smell in the feces by absorbing all the nutrients in it, and the water will be separated and it goes through a system we call soakaway, and it goes through the ground. So when it's full, you remove it and you put it in a composter for about six, depending on the size of the composter, it can take about 6 weeks to 6 months to be composted, and you can use it as a fertilizer or a natural compost on arable plants or in your garden, or you can even sell it. But in the context of Ghana, it's going to be very, very difficult to use it at the public places because you need somebody to be there to tell people how to use it. Other than that, it won't work. But in a family setting home, you can use it. It will work fine. You would need to pay for water, a lot of water bill. You don't need water to use it. And at the end of the day, the compost that comes out of it, you can sell it or you can use it in your garden.
Thank you so much. I think lastly, I'll hear from John on your solutions to how we can make Ghana a better place when it comes to sanitation and waste management.
Well, thank you very much. I'll just add to what my colleagues have already said. And some of the things I said earlier at the initial stages, we need to start from ourselves. Every person has a role. Every person has a responsibility to protect themselves from flooding and to protect their neighbors as well from flooding. If we can see it from that level, I'm sure we'll be going somewhere. So everyone has a responsibility to protect themselves first and to protect their neighbors. So let's take, for example, you are building. Now you ask yourself, where I'm building, am I going to be safe? One of the things that I'm aware the government will be looking to do is to be able to highlight. We know those places that flood, but there are also places that do not flood or that didn't used to flood that are now flooding, obviously due to the climate change impact, on flooding. So there is going to be a model done highlighting all those flood-prone areas, so people are aware, before they go in there and build their homes, what they are going in for. I mean, what that would also do is that people would then have to undertake flood risk assessment, to see what level of risk there is in that particular area they're going to build. I mean, in some cases, in UK, I know of companies that have built homes, spent millions of pounds to build homes that no one is buying. because people are aware that those are flood-prone areas. You know, you buy a property in that area, you are struggling to get insurance because no insurance company wants to, you know, insure a property in a flood-prone area, and so those houses are sitting there. Nobody is buying them. It's all because there's awareness. People are aware, you know, that these areas are flood-prone, and buying a property there means that you are throwing your money away. So I think we need to get to that level of awareness. There are some areas that are flood prone, but you know, some mitigation measures can be put in place. So we have what we call property level protection. So people can be supported to enhance their own protection from flooding. Or we call it property level protection. Certain measures that can be put in place. But then we also have the area-wide solutions, you know, which is beyond the reach of individuals, which then the government has to step in and help. So everybody has a role to play. This is not something that we can leave for the government. We can't sit back and just allow the government and say that the government has to solve the problem, because we have all created the problems. We all have to solve it together. You know, no matter what government invests in you know, building things and investing in protecting, you know, in preventing flooding, if individuals do not step up and also take their own individual measures and stop certain activities that create a problem, it won't go away. So the solution lies with all of us.
The solution lies with all of us. I don't know whether if any one of my panelists has any last words to say, then I'll bring the conversation to an end. So, you know, Philip, John, Richard, Daniel, thank you so much for being on the show. Are there any last few words for our audience who are watching tonight before we go?
Yeah, well, I think it shows that we.
Wait, was John talking, or did I?
Yes, he was talking, but I think his line has disconnected.
Oh, the line has gone. Oh, he's back. Hey, John.
Yeah, did you lose me?
Yes, we did.
Okay. Well, oh, sorry. So what I was saying was that I was quoting Tesco's in UK, that every little helps. You know, in some of my projects that I've done in UK, there are little interventions, you know, little things like green roof on a house, you know, like a rain garden that allows some water to collect in a little pond there, a tree there that will absorb some water, you know, little interventions, swells, you know, swell would allow water from the roof to collect in there and infiltrate into the ground. All of those little interventions, what they do is that they stop the flow of water from your house, you know, down the drain that will end up in somebody's house. You know, so let's encourage those little interventions, and that is where every single individual, every household has a role to play. You can plant a tree in your front garden or your backyard, absorb some water. You know, you can, if you have already paved, pave all your compound, allow some infiltration, because every drop of water that leaves your compound that ends up in the drain could eventually end up in somebody's house and could flood somebody's house. So let's encourage ourselves. Let us make those little interventions that we can in our homes, and I think collectively we can reduce the flood risk to ourselves and to our neighbors. Let's be each other's keeper. You know, be mindful that whatever you are doing in your house has a bearing on somebody's house, and it can affect somebody positively or negatively. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all of your time. I hope that the four of you can actually come together and work together to really change the landscape in Ghana, because you all have the knowledge, you all have the expertise. And I think that, you know, if change is going to happen, we need the likes of yourselves to all come together and use the experiences and your expertise to make a change in Ghana. So thank you all for coming on the show tonight. Anybody that's looking for my panelists, I have at the moment Daniel's details on the screen, Richard's details. John, I didn't get your details or your website details on the private chat for me to share. If you don't mind, that would be great if you can put it in the private chat so I can share with the audience. But I hope that we have learned something today, especially with those, you know, construction companies or people building houses. Please, 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 please make sure that you check the area that you're not actually building on somewhere that you're not supposed to be building. Let's try and use the system to make things right. And let's, you know, put our people that are, you know, the decision makers, the policy makers, let's put them on their top to make sure that they are doing the right thing also. And this is the way that we will make Ghana great. And so I urge all of you, don't put anything in the gutters. I know it's open, it is supposed to be closed, but please, 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 if you want your bola waste to be collected, use bola bird. That's why they are here, okay, to serve you. If you have plastics at home, bola bird can take your stuff for you. If you need expertise, or you know, you want to build something and you want some information, maybe Philip is the person that you can also contact. So please, 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 let's do that. I think let me see, John is back. I'm sorry if you can hear my son in the background, but he's decided to come back. And thank you all so much for watching the show. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope they're going to be in touch with John, Richard. Let me see if I've managed to get John. Okay, fabulous. I've gotten John's details. I'm just going to share it with you now. There it is. But thank you all. Thank you so much for joining me on the show. I hope you've enjoyed yourself as well. God bless you for taking out your 2 hours for us to discuss such an important topic, which is very, very important for us to move on when it comes to the development of our country. Thank you all so much, and I will speak to you again soon. Thank you, John. Thank you, Daniel. Thank you, Richard. Thank you, Philip. Guys, it's been a very informative show. It's been great to speak to you guys as always. I'm glad that my Thursdays are back with you guys. Sunday, again, we'll be bringing you another topic. This is Richard's details as well, so you can contact him. But thank you so much for watching the show. If you are looking for investment opportunities in Ghana, if you're looking for investment opportunities, if you're looking for partnerships, please visit odanaconnect.com. It is the pathway to Ghana. If you're looking for job opportunities, make sure that you go on ODANA Connect. Register now. We are launching next week, where you will have the opportunities to invest, the opportunity to do partnerships. So make sure that you go online and do that. I'm sure you guys can hear my son in the background. I'm so sorry. I think I'm definitely going to have to leave now. I will see you guys next week, same time, same place. God bless you all. Don't forget to send your money through WorldRemit. They are the better way to send money. Thank you all so much. I will see you on Thursday. Good night. God bless. Bye-bye.